One of the problems with recruiting for investment banking is not the knowledge or skills you acquire, but the access to talk with real investment bankers to put your best foot forward. Our sponsor, WSO Academy, can provide those connections with 60 head mentors who are finance professionals at top firms like Goldman, Centerview, and JP Morgan. Imagine being able to get on the phone within 24 hours with one of the Academy's 1,300 mentors right before a critical interview. Get on the waitlist for WSO Academy today by clicking the link in the show notes or by visiting wallstreetoasis.com/academy. All right. Welcome to Investment Banking Insights. My name is Alex Mason, and I am your host. This is the show where we're understanding and learning the technical and non-technical aspects of investment banking. And I am an up-and-coming MBA student trying to learn all this stuff, coming from a non-finance background. And so I'm just excited to share everything that I learn with you, because I know that there's so much to learn. There's so many things that you and I need to know in order to prepare for our interviews and ultimately our jobs and careers as investment bankers. So I thought, let me start a podcast on this topic because I think it'll be super helpful. And we've been going through a lot of the behavioral aspects. We've talked about an overview of the industry. And then the last episode, we talked about some basic broad accounting principles. Today, let's talk about one simple concept, and that is the basic equation of accounting. All right, let's talk about the basic equation of accounting. This is it. Assets equals liabilities plus shareholders' equity. Now I'll go ahead and repeat that. Assets equals liabilities plus shareholders' equity. Now, let me break that down for you if you're unfamiliar with what these terms mean. It's very important to understand these terms. So what are assets? Assets are what a company owns. These are things that have financial value. Keyword financial. There are a lot of things that are associated with the company that have value, things that may be less quantifiable, like how people feel about the company, or maybe there's social impact value that the company has. But when it comes to accounting, remember, we want to look at things that we can actually measure in dollars and cents. So assets are related to the financial value of what the company owns. So that's the left-hand side of the equation. Now, moving on to the right-hand side of the equation, we have first liabilities. What is a liability? Well, it's kind of like the opposite of an asset is how I think about it. Liabilities are obligations that the company owes. I think the easiest example of a liability is debt. When you borrow money, you have to pay it back, and usually with interest. So that's a liability. And then what is shareholders' equity? Well, think about your house. How much equity do you have in your house if you own a home? Or if you rent an apartment or rent a house from someone, think about the value of that property that you're living in. That owner may have equity in the property. And what does that mean? That means the property is worth a certain amount, yet they owe a lower amount on their mortgage. And the difference between what they own and what they owe is their equity. And with a business, it's actually the exact same thing. It's literally the net worth of the business. Equity is a concept that is denoting ownership. That's all that it is. So let's put this equation back together with this new knowledge of these three terms. So assets equals liabilities plus shareholders' equity. So what are we saying with that? We're saying that on the left-hand side of the equation, what the company owns equals, now the right-hand side of the equation, what the company owes plus the net worth of the company. Now, I just want to make a quick note that we can rearrange this equation in any way that we see fit if it makes us understand things a little bit better. Now, another way that I like to think of this equation is by moving the liabilities term over to the left-hand side. So I think of it as shareholders' equity equals assets minus liabilities. That's another way to think about it because that's how I think about it in terms of ownership of a home or a car. I'm thinking about the net worth, right? Assets minus liabilities. But you may ask the question, Alex, well, why is the equation structured in the original way that you shared it? Assets equals liabilities plus shareholders' equity. Well, that's because in the financial statements, specifically the balance sheet, that's how information is presented to investors, shareholders, and other financial professionals like investment bankers. The assets section of the balance sheet is at the top. And then at the bottom, the liabilities plus shareholders' equity section is combined. So there's liabilities plus shareholders' equity. And the most important part of the balance sheet is the fact that everything has to balance by definition. So that equation must be satisfied by the balance sheet. And we're going to get into this in more detail in the next few episodes, talking about the balance sheet and breaking different parts down. But that's the basic equation of accounting. Remember, assets equals liabilities plus shareholders' equity. And that's what you need to know. Now, in the next episode, we're going to be talking about the balance sheet and breaking things down with the basics. We're going to start going through the different financial statements. So join me with the next episode, and we'll talk about that next. All right, this is Alex Mason with Investment Banking Insights, and I'll see you next time.